Hello, and welcome back to Lynn's Test Kitchen with Bark and Brittle. Today we're going to be doing a recipe that was sent to us by Brittany in North Carolina, and it is for zucchini brownies. Not sure if you guys can get a good look at that, but I'll post the link in the description below and with any information that I find in doing this. So I think the point of this is basically to hide vegetables from your kids and maybe to hide vegetables from some adults. So this is a pretty standard brownie recipe. So the one thing that we will see that's missing is an egg. So there's no egg in this recipe, and maybe the zucchini takes the place of that, although an egg is a binder, zucchini's not, so we'll see how it comes out. And then these are also frosted, so we'll get into the frosting later. So the walnuts are optional. I'm going to put them in there. I think it sounds good. So it asks for half a cup of chopped walnuts. All right, so let me get those chopped up. It looks like we're pretty much right on. We're going to set that to the side, and then it calls for 2 cups of shredded zucchini. My zucchinis are a little sad looking, but they'll do. They're being baked into brownies anyway. My zucchini flying all over the place. I guess that's a sacrifice you make for healthy brownies. All right, 2 cups of zucchini. Let me clean up a little bit and we can move on with the recipe. Okay, all cleaned up and ready to go. Our oven just came to temperature. Oh, spare piece of zucchini. Our oven just came to temperature. It's set at 350. All right, in a medium bowl, whisk together the flour, cocoa, baking soda, and salt. So here is our flour. This is 2 cups of flour and half a cup of cocoa powder. And of course, now I'm wearing the cocoa powder. All right. 1 teaspoon of salt and 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. So we're going to get this combined. Okay, using an electric mixer fitted with a paddle attachment. I just stepped on wet zucchini, by the way, just down there on the floor. The sacrifices that we make. Using an electric mixer fitted with a paddle attachment, mix together the oil, sugar, and vanilla until well combined. So I have here half a cup of oil and a cup and a half of sugar, and then 2 teaspoons of vanilla. All right, so sugar in. Now this is not going to cream up like you see in a lot of recipes that have sugar and butter. So this is not going to mix up the same, so don't expect this to come like to a nice kind of creamy texture like you get. So there's the oil in and our vanilla. I'm going to put on the paddle attachment. I'm going to start this on low so I don't end up wearing it. And I'm going to pick up that zucchini. Okay, that's better. And I'm going to scrape down the sides because a lot of it is just kind of stuck to the side. This is a big mixer, so it doesn't always get everything if you don't have a lot of ingredients in there. You could also do this with an electric hand mixer, though, and that would work just fine. All right. I'm going to give it one more scrape, and then, like I said, you just want the sugar to kind of dissolve a little bit in the oil, but this isn't going to mix up like you would normally see with butter. It's not going to really come together any more than this, so I'm going to say that's well mixed, and the next instructions are to add the dry ingredients and stir, then fold in the zucchini, let the mixture sit for a few minutes so the batter can absorb the moisture from the zucchini. A lot of recipes with zucchini, you see that you shred it and then you wring out the moisture, but in this case we want all that moisture, so we're not going to drain it or wring it out. We want all that moisture in there. If the mixture is still very powdery, add up to 5 tablespoons of water, starting with 1 tablespoon and work up from there, stirring well after each addition. The batter will be very thick, but shouldn't be powdery. So I think this is one problem people had in the recipe is what does that mean and how much liquid needs to be in there. So it does say here that the dough is super thick like a cookie dough, and that you may have to use your hands to work in the water instead of a spoon if you're not still using your mixer, if you're doing that by hand. So this isn't going to pour like a nice cake batter. This is something we're going to have a spoon in the pan and spread out. So anyway, let's start with our dry ingredients. It doesn't say to add in additions. So we're just going to put it all in at once. All right. And again, I'm going to start this on very low so I don't end up wearing this flour. All right, I'm going to give the bowl a quick scrape, mix it again for another minute, and then we'll fold in the zucchini. Honestly, I don't know what the point is to folding in the zucchini. I would really think that you could just throw it in here and mix it. Maybe she said that in case you're using a hand mixer, but I don't see what difference that it would make. All right, it looks like it's as kind of blended as it's going to get. So let's take the bowl off. It's still very sandy. Like, it's definitely not come together like a nice dough. But we're going to put the zucchini in. I'm going to switch to a spoon. Make it a little bit easier on myself. All right, so we have the zucchini mixed in there, and it says to let it sit for a few minutes to make sure that the liquid from the zucchini absorbs into the batter. So we're going to let it go for a few minutes, and then I will come back, show you what it looks like, and we will decide if we need to add water to it or if we're going to go with it as it is. We'll see how much liquid that zucchini release while we're gone, and I'll see you back here in a couple minutes. Okay, welcome back. It's been, I don't know, probably about 5 minutes, long enough for me to do the dishes over there and see what it looks like. At first glance, it looks kind of powdery still, but we're going to give it a stir. It looks like the zucchinis are definitely releasing quite a bit of moisture in here. And it does say that it's supposed to be very thick. So I think we're actually okay. I'm going to add the walnuts and keep stirring, and then we'll see what it looks like and see if we feel like we need to add some water. It smells very good. Definitely smells very chocolatey. Right, I'm going to say that this is probably the texture that she's referring to, so we're going to go with this. We're going to put it into our prepared pan. Now let's see. Okay, it's definitely not going to be easy to move around. I'm thinking that we might want to go with a rubber spatula here. And if this doesn't work well, we will switch to the tools that God gave us. All right, so I'm just going to try and spread this as evenly as I can. Okay, hands, definitely the way to go. A little messy, so I'm gonna get washed up and put these in the oven. They're gonna go in for 25 to 30 minutes at 350. It says until the brownies spring back when gently touched. I like my brownies pretty fudgy, so we'll see what it looks like. Probably around 15 minutes. I'm gonna rotate it in the oven so it gets evenly baked. And then I'll check it at 25 and see if we need a few more minutes. So I will see you back here when these are done baking. All right, welcome back. We have the brownies done and out of the oven. They're nice and cool, and so we're ready to make the frosting. They cooked for about 28 minutes. I didn't want to go the full 30 because I like my brownies really fudgy. I don't like them cakey, and the edges were feeling, you know, pretty, like the edges get, you can tell that they're done. So the inside I'm thinking should be pretty fudgy. So you can see here, you can see bits of zucchini in there, but you can also see walnuts. So I'm thinking when this is done, it's probably gonna fool pretty much any kid. So we're gonna set this aside and make our frosting. And for the frosting, we have 2 cups of powdered sugar and 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. All right. And then a pinch of salt. So I just have a pink Himalayan sea salt here that I'm using, but I'm gonna put a little more in so it's not overly sweet. You can use whatever salt, table salt is fine for this. So we're gonna get this mixed up. Now there's something I would change immediately, is that I would have sifted this or used an electric mixer for the whole thing. She just says to whisk it by hand. The reason I would sift it or use a mixer is cocoa powder and powdered sugar are both very lumpy ingredients, and it's going to be very difficult to get this super smooth without seeing specks of the cocoa powder. But we're going to do what she says and we'll see what happens. So in here, we're going to whisk in the butter. So the butter is melted, and this is a 1/4 cup. So I melted it and then I just let it cool a little bit. So it didn't, when we put the milk in, it's just not going in like super hot. But there's no eggs in here, so it really wouldn't matter if it went in hot. So you can see immediately, well, we have a bit of a mess, but you can, we're a lot. So you have to be very careful. Obviously, we don't have enough liquid in here to really make a dent in it. So I'm gonna put the milk in now, and then that's a quarter of a cup of milk, which is 2 ounces, and then a tablespoon of vanilla. So I'm gonna go slow so I can try and save some of the frosting for the actual brownies instead of my countertop. I'm just gonna whisk it as hard as I can for a minute and see if we can get some of these lumps out. You can see that it's pretty lumpy. So I don't think it's gonna get super smooth, so that's why I said I think an electric mixer in here would do a really, really good job. But we will see at the end. All right, so let's get this out of the bowl. All right, I'm gonna try and spread it with this rubber spatula, and if it ends up being a pain, I have an offset spatula here that I can move to also. Yeah, you can see that there's still some lumps of cocoa powder in here that I would prefer if it was a little bit smoother. So I'm gonna say just take the extra step and pull out an electric mixer to do this. All right. Okay, so the instructions say to cut into squares and then chill to semi-set. The frosting hardens slightly on the top but stays wet and gooey underneath. So there's a couple things about that I don't love. First of all, I would wait until the frosting is set to cut it for 2 reasons. One, you're just going to drag your knife through it and drag your frosting all over and kind of make a mess. But also we have it sitting in foil. So you're now cutting your brownies on foil in a pan. So for me, it's just, that's a little messy and I wouldn't personally go in that direction. But again, those are the instructions. So we'll just follow what she says and we'll see how they came out. So let me grab a knife. So I'm going to finish getting these cut up. And then I will get them into the fridge to semi-set. We'll pull them out and then we'll do a little taste test. All right, welcome back. We have the zucchini brownies out of the refrigerator. They've been setting for probably about 20 minutes. They haven't really crusted over like they talk about in the recipe, but that could just be that I haven't left them long enough. So anyway, I mean, they look good and they look very, very fudgy. So we're gonna go ahead and try one. I'm gonna actually use a fork. She calls these fork brownies, and I think it's probably because they're pretty fudgy and the topping is soft and so they're a little messy. So I'm gonna try this one right here. And we're gonna see how this is. See, you can't really see. I mean, if you didn't know better, you wouldn't know there's zucchini in here. I really like the walnuts in there. It gives it a nice bit of texture. I think these are good. The topping is pretty sweet, but the brownie itself is not very sweet. So I think that they kind of play off each other well. For me, I would probably lessen the sugar a little bit if I could get away with it texture-wise and still get a good frosting. But a lot of people are used to very sweet frosting, so it wouldn't be a big deal. You wouldn't know there was zucchini in there from tasting it. So I would say this is definitely worth making. So if you need to sneak some vegetables into your kids' dessert, or like I said, maybe an adult who doesn't eat vegetables, I think this is definitely worth trying. So let me know if you like it, if you try it. And thank you, Brittany, for submitting this recipe. I think that you'll love it. If you're making it for your kids, let me know what they think. Please like and subscribe. And then send me any recipes that you want me to try, any baking or candy recipes. Send me a link or send me the recipe, and you may be the next person on Lynn's Test Kitchen. Thanks for joining.